Hello, my name is Pastor Brian, and we're here at Nampa First Church of the Nazarene. I'm the communication pastor, and I'm here with Scott Davis, our pastor to youth and young adults. And we're recording a video to explain a new service that we have coming up. It's called the Longest Night Service, and Scott, you're kind of in charge of that. And so first, before we talk about what it is and what to expect, give us kind of the story of how this service came about, your experience.
Yeah, so I've been doing this service for about 15 years, and it started at a church I was at where I was the youth pastor, and had a kid who graduated, a young man who was just amazing, full of energy and excitement and life, and incredible kid, just loved people, incredibly respectful, from a really amazing family that was deeply grounded in the church, and just loved like nobody's business. So just really well established and well respected and loved family. Well, he graduated in June, and in September he had started as a 19-year-old kid. He started as an intern with me, not at all like the internships we have here now, but just a different kind of internship program I was doing. And so I was working really close with him, and Halloween came around, and on Halloween, he loved to go out hiking and climbing and all kinds of adventures with his friends, and so he and some buddies were out just kind of walking through the woods and in the hills and stuff like that, and they came across a train trestle, and they were just kind of climbing around on the train trestle, and he slipped and fell, which was about a 90-foot fall, and he did not survive, and so his death was just devastating for the family, for the youth group, and for as a result, it was just devastating for the church as a whole, because they were so grounded and connected into the church. And so, weeks are going by, and it just felt like it was this heavy cloud of grief over everything in the church, everything that we were doing. Even if it was a ministry that he and his family wouldn't typically have been involved in, it just felt like everything just had this cloud. And I just was praying, God, just give us something to move beyond this. Help us with this. Give us some help. And so I continued to pray, and I kind of started looking on the internet for ideas of things, services for grief and stuff like that. And as we were getting closer and closer into the holidays, I started seeing results popping up about blue services, blue Christmas services and stuff. And I was never a big fan of the term because, one, Blue Christmas makes me think of Elvis, and that's not quite the right setting.
It's almost like goofy connotations in some ways.
Like everybody put your Elvis costume on it. And also, blue just doesn't really adequately describe grief. And, I'm feeling kind of blue. Well, no, it's
a little bit trite.
Exactly. And so I've never been a big fan of that description. And then in talking with the family, they would describe it like they were just stuck in this really dark night. And I started thinking of night and thinking the winter solstice was approaching, and it's the longest night of the year, and it just kind of all came together like that, and we just kind of called, I talked to them about the idea of this service, and they thought it was a cool idea. They thought it might be helpful for them, and if for nobody else than for them, I decided I was doing the service, and so we called it the Longest Night, and that's kind of how it started.
So before we talk about what you've seen God do through this service, give people just a quick explanation of what the service is and sort of the vibe that you create, the environment you want to create during this service.
So since dealing with grief, especially at the holidays where everything is so family oriented and togetherness and all that kind of stuff, grief and loss is one of those things that just becomes a dark, heavy cloud. And it's like walking through a long, dark night. And the goal of the service is not to be the fix-all for grief, but to shed light in the darkness, to kind of show the living hope of Christ. And so the service is very simple. I've done it different ways. I've had full bands, and I've had just a couple of instruments, and I really like the format it's developed into these last number of years. And it's just very simple. It'll be dimly lit. just a couple of instruments and a couple of voices to lead through liturgies and songs. There would be a place where people can sign in and list names of people that they're here to remember, and those names will be read aloud at one point during the service. And it's just it's a time to acknowledge grief, to recognize that it is what it is, and then to turn and look to the light of Christ and the living hope that we have in Him.
Right. Yeah, I love that you are acknowledging this brokenness. And at Nampa First, our mission statement is a place where brokenness belongs and the living hope restores. And so this service is really, it's a beautiful time to admit some of that brokenness, to admit that loss and that grief. And in a season where, joy is at the forefront, and happiness and Christmas trees and lights and presents and kids and all that. And yet it can also be a time of acute pain and grief, maybe a first Christmas or a first holiday season without a spouse or some other type of loss. So what are some of the benefits that you've seen from this service? What kind of things have you seen God do?
Well, one of the cool things is it's, even though I no longer attend the same church as this family, and where they're at, they don't do this service anymore. There's still this connection with them, and they will check in sometimes, or I'll check in with them, and I'll let them know, hey, I'm headed to the longest night, and or they'll check in, and did you do it this year? And just there's this connection, and just the simple fact that it's still going on brings some light to them. And so there's just this really cool 15 years so far effect for that family. There have been some other situations. There was a lady who was attending for several years, and every year she would come up to me and give me this huge hug afterwards and just say, thank you so much. And I never really knew why she was there and where the grief was for her, until several years in, 3, 4, maybe 5 years in, she finally opened up to me and just said she lost a child when she was a young mother, and she's just a wonderful, sweet little old lady now. And so all of these years she just struggled so much at Christmas time, and that this service gave her a little more hope and a little more joy than she's been able to find since her child's death. And just really kind of powerful. Nothing that took it all away, but it just made the season a little more bearable. For some, it's just making it bearable, and for others, it's reminding and reorienting toward hope that makes a big significance, a big difference. And so it's just kind of it's kind of different for different people. And I've had people who have come in and almost didn't attend because the loss was so fresh. And I've heard that a lot of times over the years. People who've lost someone are like, oh, I can't come in yet. I can't attend that yet. It's just too fresh. And I get where they're coming from. But this one family came, and it was really hard for them to come, and they came with, it was like they just had so much extra weight on them that evening as they were coming in. But they came in, and God just kind of lifted all that off of them. The grief was still very real, and to this day is still very real. But it gave them hope in a way that they did not expect to have that quickly. And it just it hits different people in different ways and in different timings.
It seems like this can be really poignant for a congregation like ours. We have a lot of older people in our church, and it seems like even this year has felt a little unique with the sense of loss in our church even. And every year we do many funerals, and we lose many loved ones from our congregation. And so talk to us about who is this service for? Is it just if you've lost a loved one in last year or something like that? It's not quite such a closed net as that. So who is this service sort of for?
It's really for anybody who experiences loss, some form of loss, and just feels like they're walking in a cloud during the holidays. It's designed toward those experiencing grief from the death of loved ones. whether it's long ago or very recent.
Sure.
But I've had people who have come to it who had ended a relationship, and they're struggling with the separation in that relationship, whether it's just a dating relationship or a marriage through divorce.
Kind of a death of a relationship in that way too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they come in and they just kind of find some hope and to kind of carry on and move forward, and so a little bit of restoration. And others have benefited from it just because they're geographically separated from loved ones.
Oh, sure.
No one's passed, no one's died, and it's not the death of a relationship, but they're just separated from the people they really want to be with during the holidays. It could be a family that has moved across the country away from all the rest of their family, and they're having a hard time not being near their family. Or it could be, like my sister-in-law married into the military, and she had a number of Christmases where he was deployed for a year at a time, and so the holidays were really hard for her, and it's for people like that as well. It's designed for grief, but it's for anybody who feels like they're experiencing loss or walking through a dark cloud.
That longest night, wherever you find yourself in that dark night, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if this has hit home for you, we would love to extend the invitation to the longest night service. It is Sunday, December 22nd at 5 p.m. right here in our sanctuary at Nampa First Church of the Nazarene. We're on the corner of 16th Avenue and 7th Street, and our sanctuary building is the bigger building that is between 7th Street and 6th Street. There's a big parking lot. You can come in the glass doors, and we'll be here in the sanctuary at 5 o'clock. Or if you know of someone that you would say is going through this darkest night, and you want to share this video, you do not have to be a member of the church to attend this. It is an open invitation to anybody that finds himself in this place and feels like this could be a benefit for their holiday season. So the invitation is for all, and we would love to see you there.